the intro. The intro is always not working, but it's good condition in streaming.
Yeah.
So
very good.
yeah, I'm doing this today actually without a producer in studio because it's just an FAQ. But yeah, so the starting is always a bit of a trick. Yeah. But I can see it's all green, so it should be coming just nicely to you.
Enjoying a Glenbryth 21 years while watching Glenbryth. That's a brand from the supermarket chain, isn't it? 22-year-old Connemara. Wow, that's quite a rare one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I do have a Tullibardine, the Murray podcast finish, one of my favorite, and this was exclusively bottled for us. Yeah, it was 12 years of age, and for you I selected a Legend where you have something to say about.
Yeah,
this is a from 2 continents or from 2 countries.
This is a product of Beam Suntory, and if we say Beam Suntory, it's actually Beam and Suntory. They're the 2 master distillers, like from the east and the west, depending on where you stand, east or west. Fred No from Jim Beam, and he's the master distiller, the creator of the most recent Jim Beam expressions, and kind of, yeah, he is inheriting all the Beam traditions and keeping the traditions up. So he's the master distiller of the Beam company. And then we have Shinji Fukuyo. I actually have not met him yet. He's from Suntory, and Suntory bought Beam, and they sat together as they are one company now. So what can we do that is gonna be a really a thing of East meets West, and a really cool thing. And they came up with the idea of starting off with a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, and then they partially finishing it in wine and sherry casks. So kind of the tradition of Fred No and the blending tradition of Japan in one bottle. We're gonna try it here on the cask in a few days because the launch in Germany is just around the corner. But I think it's already available, let's say, in the States or some other countries. Not quite sure where they launched already, but they launched in the States. We have quite some people here. Hello from Canada, Laredo, Texas, Tennessee, Philadelphia, Central Oregon. What was it? Cheers from Argentina. Winnipeg. Oh, cool, Winnipeg. I've driven through there. And Costa Rica. And yeah, that's about it. Hello from Canada. Yeah.
Boston.
So Boston.
So most is the Americas and
Serbia.
South Africa. Very good. It's the same time zone.
In Japan. Fernando Maizaki. Sounds a bit like a mixture of Spanish and Japanese. Hello, Horst and Ben. Been watching for years. Just wondering if you have tried the Macallan edition series, such as edition number 4. 4?
No.
I've not heard of it. We've just done the Oscuro.
That was very expensive.
That was quite a video. Actually, many people clicked it.
Fernando Miyazaki, a Brazilian in Japan.
A Brazilian, okay.
Israel's son from Sweden. Mexico.
Do they actually speak like that?
Mexico.
I've never met a Mexican.
No.
So if you have any questions, just post them in there. As long as you sitting there, I can ask some questions freely translated from a few from the German ones. Can you buy whiskey as not so? Can you buy cheaper whiskeys that are good in quality?
Yes, definitely. There are, say, a few dozen whiskies out there which cost below 40 euros, dollars, pounds, single malt whiskies from Scotland, and they are definitely very much better than most of the blends you're able to buy in the supermarkets. And they also carry age statements. There are wonderful whiskies out there. This is one which we suggest typically as one of the first, Balvenie, 12 years of age. It's matured in 2 different cask oak and sherry oak. And these whiskies, you do not have to think about a cheap whiskey has to be a bad whiskey. Have a look that the distillery is really a distillery, not a name, a fantasy name. Look up, we have the whiskey.
Queen Margaret. If there's a queen on a whiskey, it's not a distillery.
No. So there are whiskey, or most of the whiskey distilleries in the world, a lot of the Scottish ones are in our whiskey database on Whisky.com. So look that up. If you see a whiskey with a special name, look that up. If it's really a distillery, if you can see buildings, warehouses, pot stills of that, then you're quite sure that you do not have a mass product from some supermarket chain, but you have a really good one. And then quality is typically very good. Look at single malt Scotch whiskey. This brings you a lot of quality inherited from the Scotch Whisky Association and their rulings and regulations. Mm-hmm. But there will be other good whiskies as well out there, but don't take chances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have Vesiano. Hello guys, what do you think about the Tullibardine 25? Is it special?
Tullibardine 25.
Did I have the Tullibardine 25? No, I didn't have it yet.
I had it yet.
Did you have it? Okay.
I had it
I've
already.
been at the distillery just now, but we only had the, what do they call it, the cuvées, or the one with the cask size on them?
These whiskies are from the time before the closure of the distillery. I think they ceased operations in 1994, 1995, as a lot of distilleries did. And the casks are, well, they had been the cask maturing weaker than others, so they needed a long time to get the taste transferred into the whiskey. So there had been some whiskies out there from the time before, which were filled or bottled a lot earlier, and they were lacking some oak.
Mm-hmm.
But the 25 is all right, yes.
But I've been in the distillery and they are getting into it. They're getting older and older, and you will get back some great older expressions in the future. Yeah. There's a question in German. Will your whiskey glasses be available in the US?
Yeah, not yet.
But they will be at some point.
So we had some private order from Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, yeah. And I sent a few dozen out there, and they all arrived perfectly, but it was expensive. It was really, really expensive to ship them there. So we need to have a delivery by pallet and then distribution over there. Yeah.
Okay. What I like the most is Glenfiddich 12. What other similar whiskies would you recommend in those price ranges and tastes? I've actually not been at Glenfiddich yet. Maybe I've been with you sometime when I was a teenager, but...
Glenfiddich 12 years of age is a fruity, matured, quite light whiskey. And you have to look for the bigger ones. So Glen Grant, 10 years of age, probably might be... Glenfiddich is something special because the stills are quite small.
Stills are quite small.
So that brings typically more intensity.
Macallan?
Macallan has very small ones, but they do use a lot of sherry casks. You should switch over to the fine oak, probably the younger ones that might be comparable to that.
Macallan fine oak is quite a good one, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think the Macallan's quality decreased over the years from Geoff?
No, definitely not. They changed the way they selected the casks. In former times, they put always 50 casks together, which they do today as well. And there had been a lot of very excellent casks in those mixtures, which didn't improve the taste of those whiskies a lot. So now they decided some 15 years ago, or even longer, 20 years ago, to taste every cask, to look after each individual cask, have it calculated or written up in the computer, and then you could bring out the whiskey with exactly those casks which qualify for the taste they would want to have. And better casks survived for better quality bottlings, but they had shortages, so the price went up very steep. So if you look at the equivalent priced Macallans, quality might have been not rising, because the very good ones extremely rose in price. So probably yes. In total, I say no, definitely not. Quality didn't go back, but prices went up. And so if you keep with your price, probably then quality went down. Yeah.
So there's one thing I might be able to spoil here a bit, because they're not Germans on the stream. To the one with the glasses, because you did the sad face. We actually did do a bit of a sneaky expansion. We didn't go public, like we didn't do any advertising for it yet. So we actually selling to a foreign country now. So we are getting there. It's not like still a dream in the clouds where we like, oh damn it, we have to calculate all the taxes and that kind of stuff. We do calculate the taxes now for Austria. Okay. Austria is like, yeah.
No, it's not.
It's very close.
If you ask an Austrian,
yeah, it's not Germany.
It's not Germany.
The thing is, they have a different VAT and they have different alcohol tax. So we do
different
everything.
Legislation. Even they are in the EC.
Yeah. So we do. We have already started with the thing with the expansion process. So we will take more countries, and at some point we will do international as well. And probably maybe we can chip in the glasses a bit earlier, because we do not have to calculate the alcohol tax, because there's no alcohol in glass.
Yeah.
Do you have a good one?
Yeah. Have you tasted the Chivas 15 yet? No. I had the Chivas 12-year-old, I had the Chivas 18-year-old, and the 25, and that was incredibly good. So the 15, no, not yet. And from 12 to 18, it's quite an improvement, and from 18 to 21 as well. So I suggest that 15 is a good bid over the 12-year-old.
Good evening, gentlemen. Will you offer advents calendar for Christmas season? They just want to see us sing again.
No. Advent calendar is an assortment of small bottles.
We can have different. We had an
24. But if you add it together, those 24, and you have some cut tree out of wood with holes in it or whatever, then you add up to a few hundred. So there are only very few people trying to.
Yeah, I always wanted to get that.
Able to pay that. So the typical way is order those miniatures yourself, and then have something where you not that those miniatures
little sacks or something like that. Bags.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think he is playing on the. I think we had the whiskey advents calendar on Whisky.com, where we did.
No. He asked for 24. It was in the German channel. He's a German.
Okay, yeah. He's German. Okay. Okay, maybe you have an interesting question here. Is there an open door or like a meet and greet in your company?
No.
So you cannot visit us. Unfortunately, we do not accept visitors here, because there would be too many Germans here.
and too many. Say we have no parking space, and there's a very difficult situation here.
Yeah. So Patrick Saborowski asked, how does the recasting work? Is the whiskey going to be pumped out and then pumped into a storage
Recasting
tank?
in terms of finishing process.
Finishing process. So when you have, let's say this one here, this is done in virgin oak cask to be a bourbon, and then they recask it partially into sherry casks or wine casks. I've seen that at Teeling, how they did that. Usually you have that in your warehouse where you empty the cask. You have let's say a tray or something like that. I don't know how to explain it. And you roll the cask on it, and it just dumps the cask. It just spills out, and there's a filter at the bottom that filters out all the charcoal that comes out. Yeah, there are a lot of charcoal flakes in a cask that has been charred. That whiskey is then pumped into a storage tank. And when you fill casks, so the storage tank has all the bourbon casks in it, and when you fill a cask, you can just go for new spirit in the spirit tank, or you go for the other tank, so you have the different valves, and then you just fill up the casks just as you would do with a normal spirit. Or on the other hand, if you don't want to fill it in a new cask, you just fill it in the tanker that goes off to the bottling hall. But there are different,
different ones. Glenrothes I've seen. So they let the whiskey rest for some time to get the marriage, and then divide it onto different casks. There's a very good question. Rui Malta, please speak about the Japanese and the danger of getting fooled for buying it. Oof. They are lawless, and they can write and advertise whatever they want on the labels. Most are Scotch whiskies. Definitely no. There are a lot of wonderful, extremely exact working distilleries in Japan. Ben visited 15 of them. There are videos of those distilleries on our channel here on Whisky.com, and you can see all those wonderfully working distilleries in Japan, and those, they are exact people. They are more exact than we Germans are. So there are a few out there which produce blended whiskey which contain Scotch whiskey as well. There are a lot of Scotch whiskey distilleries or whiskey distilleries in Scotland which produce for the Japanese market and which are used inside blends. But if you're identifying the distillery, like the Yamasaki, the Yoichi, and how they're called.
If you go for the supermarket whiskies,
the supermarket whiskies.
Don't buy the supermarket whiskies from Japan. Don't buy the supermarket whiskies from your country.
So the supermarket whiskies are typically the ones which are left over, offered cheap, and then bottled with a funny name on it, Queen something. So this is all everywhere in the world, but the Japanese have very good whiskey. But you have to be sure you pay an awful lot of money for a Japanese whiskey.
Yeah,
so
a bit
60,
too
70
expensive.
up. So 100 for a bottle of Japanese whiskey is not out of sight. It's
so yeah.
So if you're looking for a 20, 30 bucks whiskey from Japan, well, that's it.
That's the problem with the Japanese whiskey. You do have an excellent quality if you have like the single malt from the different distilleries, but it's just so expensive. You can get really good stuff from, let's say, Ireland or especially Scotland for way less.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. But Scotland is exporting to Japan 4 times more every year. Yes, of course, for the supermarket whiskies.
Yeah,
the cheaper ones.
The thing is, Scotland is exporting whiskey everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just because Scottish whiskey is really good, and they also do have the volume so that they don't have to increase the price so much. If you go to in Japan to a liquor store or something, you do find a Scotch whiskey because it's just that good.
Yeah. Kunal H, another question, but not about alcohol. No, we don't talk about alcohol, only whiskey. Can you bring some Unterblog casts in English, like Omega Tau Podcast? No idea who it is. Brings it. This would be amazing. Well, we're running Whisky.com.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing tastings in English, and this Unterblog channel is, well, advertisement for whiskey beside some entertaining alu hats things.
Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories, yes. So if we're expanding Whisky.com a little bit more and there will be customers in English, then probably he asks always, I should run that in English.
Yeah, you should. It would definitely go really good.
But I'm working 80 hours a week. 40 for whiskey, 40 for the underblock, and now 40 in English, and then, I'm not Elon Musk.
The thing is, the Unterblog in Germany is a bit controversial, because Germany is a bit more left-wing than, I would say, international, and we're more, I would describe as more as libertarian. So the libertarians, they are just a very tiny minority in Germany. So
we're entrepreneurs. We have to be libertarian. We need the freedom to act, to sell legally accepted drugs.
You can be a grifter. It works.
Yeah, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, let's not talk about politics. I have a Glendronach 2018 that is lighter than 2016 bottle, which is supposed to be younger. Is that because of cask quality? Any thought in that year Glendronach matter? Oh, that's a really specific question from Maximiliano Waldmann.
Yeah. So the Glendronach, 18 years of age, it just came out. The 15-year-old. The 18-year-old is still the old one, which was produced before the closing, and there should be a lot older whiskies in it than the 18-year-old, but they took, I think, the better casks for bottling already. So these are the very least casks from the old time. Then we have 1 or 2, 3 years where we won't have supply of the Glendronach 18 years old, and then the new one is coming. The 15-year-old is already new, and it's wonderful. It's a little different to the old one, but not that completely, so the character stayed the same. And I would say the 18-year-old in 2, 3, 4 years to come would be on the same quality level, not quality level, cask maturation level.
A.R. Prasad, what about the Indian single malt whiskey Amrut Fusion? I think you visited the distillery once. I did visit the distillery Amrut. It was a nice distillery visit, except for the weather. The weather is just hot. And I thought I've tried the Fusion yet.
The Fusion is a Scotch malt whiskey with an infusion of
No. They do use Scottish malt. That's the thing.
Okay.
With the Fusion, and the Fusion, I think I can remember it is like a not as peaty, like a lightly peated version of the whiskey, or like medium peated. But I have to go look. If I did skip the video, if I didn't do it, then I sure as hell do want to do it in the future.
John Templeman, have you done a taster on Cadu God Reserve? No, the God Reserve not, but the Gold Reserve.
Typo.
Yeah, Cadu had some problem in the past. They were oversold, and all Southern Europe was on Cadu 12 years old.
Oh, it's really popular in Italy.
It's really popular.
Really popular in Italy.
And then it was oversold, and the demand was higher than the supplies. And then they tried to build the Cadu with the Diluane whiskey, where they changed the distillation process a little bit to be very close to Cadu. And then they tried to say, well, Cadu is now a blended malt whiskey. And keep the Cadu 12 years old, because only very few people would have noticed that pure single malt to pure or malted blended malt, and then the financial crisis came. Southern Europe dived down, and the supplies were good. They could bring out a 15-year-old, they could bring out an 18-year-old, even to a 21-year-old, but then supply became scarce again, and they brought out the gold and the amber reserve, I think, and they were younger and of course not that mature, but they looked up quite good casks, and I think they had a little bit more of ABV in that. So yeah, you're smiling.
No,
Next question.
Next question. I think someone watched the Highland Park video. Rui Malta. Thank you again. Just one more. What do you think is the best Deutsche single malt whiskey? And take note, I didn't say German. Yeah, that was the one with the Windlander and Deutsch and German. Yeah, thanks. The thing is, we are heavily involved with the producers of the Deutsche whiskey. And,
so we can't prefer any.
We can't really say, oh, this one is better than this one, and this is the favorite, because we would damage our supplier relationship.
Yeah.
I can say there are really good distilleries. Like we have the distillery of St. Kilian, which still has a bit of young whiskey, but they're really good.
And they're producing.
Do you have it still here? And then we have the Slurs distillery, which is really good, and there's a bit of Finch, what's the other, Münsterländer, and they are, I would say they are a bit undervalued. Their quality is pretty good, and they're a bit undervalued, but also still, if you don't know the distillery, you might just get one of the farmers that the fruit, what would you call, orchards, that do the German fruit schnapps, and they just put in the barley, and he just, how do you call it, always Gerstler, like
like Obstler.
Like we call our whiskey, like we call not the whiskey, our schnapps is like corn, which is like grain, and he always calls it a barley because it's not really a whiskey, it's just a barley schnapps.
Yeah. So, but St. Kilian, they are producing 200,000 liters a year, so they are just ramping up like hell, and they do not sell that much, but they stocking up. So it's incredible what they are stocking up, and there are quite some. So I think we have 1 million or 2 million liters alcohol produced by the German malt whiskey industry. So it's coming, but it's not that big in the moment.
You did many Middleton distillery videos, but no Middleton whiskey, such as the Middleton Very Rare or Vintage and any from other distilleries.
I have that, but not in English, unfortunately.
Wait, did you do the distillery videos in English?
No.
I think it's a German, huh?
Don't think so.
I think the Middleton distillery videos are quite old, right? Aren't they? They're like 2012 or something like that. Something like that. Yeah, but we should have the Middleton at some point.
Yeah,
Let's
the
have
Middleton. I have I photographed a row of Middleton bottles.
Oh yeah,
24, 30 years going back, and now I looked at. I had been 2 weeks ago. I'd been at the Middleton distillery in Ireland, and they changed the bottle shape. Now it's a bulky one, not the standard liquor bottle any longer. So that's a harsh cut. Yeah. Have a look at
thank you, Horst and Ben. Your channel was the first whiskey channel relied on for expanding my whiskey knowledge, even though there are a lot of other channels these days. You're still one of the best. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I love it. In the international market, there are so many more whiskey channels. On the German market, there are quite many whiskey channels as well now. But yeah, they're not quite as old as our whiskey channel. We started 2007 with the German one. Yeah. It had, the first video had 4.5 stars. I love the old one. I think the star model is better than the thumbs up, thumbs down, because there's just no middle ground, and I think that's what's a bit bad about YouTube. There's so many people now shouting at each other, and there's no middle ground anymore. There's no 3-star rating anymore. It's just 1 and 5. You either love it or hate it.
Old tools restore.
Can you recommend a whiskey for beginners? Yes. Glenmorangie Original, or would you have Balvenie 12 years? So you got one?
So
one question?
yeah. Any opinions? So Edwin Esperanza, any opinions on the whiskey vault from Austin, Texas? Never heard about that. So we have very few knowledge from local.
Whiskey Vault. I think Whiskey Vault is a channel. I've seen a few of the videos, but I've not a few, one or two. But I can't remember can't quite pinpoint that.
Nautilus Geographicus. Do there exist any information whether peatlands in Scotland decrease due to the whiskey production? I have done my calculations, and every year the mosses grow 1 millimeter. And you need, for a meter, you need 1,000 years. And then you come with your truck and you harvest the peat and it's gone. So everybody says that's bad for the environment and so on. But if you look at the peat needed for the whiskey industry, it's just that little. It grows more than is taken by the whiskey industry, far more, 100 times more. The peat, which is used for the wrong way. So there are a lot of peat cutters out there for their own room heating. They dig, not too much, but they still dig. So some areas around smaller towns on Isla or on Capeltown, they are empty. But there are also people cutting peat for, well, the gardening industry, for having the right soil for plants, because it's lightly sour, and if you have those, how it's called, rhododendrons, so they need sour soils, and then they put a lot of peat in that. So that's the bad for the environment.
In terms of peat, yes, gardening is one thing. So yeah, if you can not use peat within gardening, that would be great. But there's another industry that is using far more, and that is the vegetable industry. So if you have a tomato or anything else, then the what you call it, the little ones when you grow it from the seeds, the peat is the perfect substance for growing it from the seeds. So yeah, the
Stop eating tomatoes. But you have pumpkins as well.
Yeah, the thing is, it would be great if we'd find anything, I don't know, other things that we could use. But there are other things like fiber, what we call the glass fibers and that kind of stuff that works as well. But I'm not an expert in it. But the thing is, the peat within the whiskey, we're just a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, Chivas 25 or Dalmore King Alex. Dalmore 18 under one, for the price under one. I'm typically not a blended whiskey guy, but Chivas 25 is really good. Okay. King Alexander also very, very good.
That's the problem with our audience demands something else what we can supply, because we can't really say, oh, this is better than this, because I've realized that a lot of the industry that we're dealing with is watching our videos, especially the Whisky.com news, and we cannot really go like this one. Oh, he's bad. Like last time we said something. Something bad, not really bad about the whiskey, but we didn't like praise it, and it was like, oh, our brand manager was really sad about what you said. Like, what did I say?
It was a cheap whiskey.
It was a cheap whiskey. We were like, yeah, it's quite good. It's better than the supermarket. Maybe it's in some supermarkets. And I was like, oh no, he degraded it to supermarket whiskey. Yeah, it was kind of a supermarket whiskey.
Some million in the supermarkets.
Yeah, but the thing is, we do love all the whiskey. Even some of the supermarket whiskey. If you've tried the really bad supermarket whiskey, it's still better than vodka. Seriously.
Yeah. Middleton is generally overpriced. Well, is Middleton overpriced? The Irish whiskey is cheap, tons and big volumes, but as soon as the Irish whiskey becomes of age and has an age statement on it, then prices rise very, very sharply. And the Middleton Very Rare is a collection of old casks. They do not write an age statement on it, but a vintage of the bottling. And it's really a rare selection, and this brings the price as all other Irish aged whiskies are. There are some newcomers out there which go into the market with a lower price, and hopefully in a few years there are 24 new whiskey distilleries in Ireland. In a few years, in time, the price will go down for aged whiskey in Ireland. Thank you.
There are a lot of whiskey channels, but the detailed info that you provide is very interesting. The story behind the bottles and the distilleries are most of the times amazing. I'm a whiskey knowledge fan. Yes, that's because we are whiskey traders. Not traitors, but traders as in dealers. And that's why we have a really deep insight. But take it with a grain of salt. We will not be that critical because we're selling whiskey. That's why whiskey is great. And we do think whiskey is great. That's not a lie, but we would not be very critical of a whiskey. We would just call it medium or something like that. So yeah.
There is some indication. There's some indication if I like the whiskey very much or not. This is when I taste the whiskey and talk about it, everything, and then I sip on it, and then I didn't take a second sip. So if I take a second sip, it's better. And if I finish the glass, it's excellent, but be careful. Sometimes I overfilled the glass, so there's too much in it, and I didn't empty it. So it's not always quite that sure. And sometimes I taste the whiskey, I hadn't had enough, and I taste it a second time, and sometimes say, well, I said it 2 or 3 times. And one time I spat the whiskey out, and I didn't publish the video. I didn't care. Or tried. Yeah.
Just visiting live and move your hand up and down?
There's the delay. You would like to see the delay.
Okay, delay. We can do the delay. Just read the nice question, I'll do the delay.
Glenfarclas 25 is an all-time great for the money, but I feel Glenlivet 25 is easily worth the extra money. Macallan 25, on the other hand, I can't justify paying that much. Well, Macallan 25 went up in price very, very sharply. So I had...
I can't measure the delay, we don't have the live view.
So Macallan went up in prices extremely. You can't compare Macallan with any other bottle. And Glenlivet and Glenfarclas, well, Glenlivet has beautiful whiskey, but it's a very big, huge distillery and isn't that small and individually fine-tuned as it is Glenfarclas. Yeah, both are wonderful whiskies, and I gave both of them a golden star, a whiskey award, award. But yeah, I would say if you spend that much money, then it's completely nuts which one to take. Yeah.
Again, Czar. I know you're all fans of neat spirit, but for Ben and Horst, what's your favorite Scotch cocktail? I've not tried that many Scotch cocktails yet. So it would...
Iron brew with ice. Iron brew with ice.
Iron brew with ice. With whiskey.
Just a shot.
I would say I would go for an old-fashioned. I'm not that fan of a mint julep, although it was pretty good.
That's bourbon.
Mint julep, yeah, a cocktail with bourbon.
A Scotch cocktail.
A Scotch cocktail. Oh.
Yeah.
Rob Roy was pretty good, which wasn't that pretty similar to? I'm not quite sure. I'm not that good yet. I do like the cocktail. I'm getting a bit into that.
To be more clear, do you the two of taste different things from the same whiskey? Noodle 22. Yes, definitely. So we have different experience of smells and tastes, and we find out different things. You can see that. Somebody brings up something, and then 2/3 of the time we say yes, but 1/3 of the time we say no. I don't think that. So it's a statistical.
There's a bit of an overlap.
Is a Gauss curve, which overlaps 66%, which it does with most of the people. So if you're quite experienced in whiskey, then your tasting experience quite match.
Someone asked for the microphone. It's Sennheiser MK4, and it's about there.
Freaks out my son.
What freaks out your son?
My son.
What microphone do you use? Sounds like it's in your mouth. Sometimes freaks out my son. Yeah, we do have to think about that. I'm not quite sure how the camera, if that's an automatic sometimes. I'm not quite sure.
So if you're looking at speed of sound and light speed, then you have to move the microphone very close to our mouth, because otherwise it would be down there. Then your sound would be 3 milliseconds behind your face, and this is some delay. Looks like you're slow and so on. And if you're moving that's closer, it's better. And we have to fine tune that. We might add some delay so that the sound is, as with the news, the anchorman in late night show, then the sound is exactly on your mouth.
The thing is, with the sound, it's tough to do the sound.
Yes.
I can only do the sound with Horst because I was like, that's exactly the same. That's exactly the same. And if you want to measure it within your cutting program, then the time delay or the time accuracy that you can go one frame is lower than bigger than you would like to change. So you can't really measure it within the picture and the program. I'm not sure if I have to get a high-speed camera or something to get the sound right or something. We can change the sound within milliseconds. OBS can do that, but you did it once and it was kind of awesome. But I think I went back to 0, so I don't do the time delay anymore. It's difficult. I just adjusted the. Did I already said that in English or did I just say that in German? I adjusted a bit of the close-ups, so now the close-ups are not as distorted as they used to be, and so you see this one they're both going a bit more into the right direction, and also you don't see the pillars that you used to have. I think there was a pillar here, because my
green screen for the news. Yeah.
The green screen for the news is now attached to the ceiling, and it's about here. So it's just out of frame. I just did a bit of handiwork last week, and I'm really excited about the whole setup. You can't knock over any cameras anymore. There's one light that you can run against, and it's that one, because it's just a bit too low. But the rest one is pretty good to not run over anymore.
So Dylan Brassel, my aunt works for Diageo and is quite high up in the ranks. She has a bottle of the Collectivum at her home. I'm trying to get her to give it to me. Is it worth the effort? Yes. I had the Collectivum, and I think there should be a video, a tasting video from me of the Collectivum as well in English. A wonderful blended malt whiskey, really good. This is that, and then the next one. Do you guys take a shot every day? Oh no, of course not. I
A
try
snort every day.
a shot. He means snort. A shot every day.
Oh, that's good whiskey.
No. Because I try to stay with my alcohol intake below 50% of the average of the population, then the statistics that I will have some disease out of the alcohol is low. So this is what I try to, and outside my tastings, so I'm doing in the moment 150 videos a year probably, and have not a centiliter of it. So I'm at a liter or something probably a year in English, and another liter in German. And so this is a tenth of that if you're drinking 2 pints of beer every day. A tenth of that.
Yeah.
So don't overestimate the alcohol inside a whiskey. The most complicated, most difficult is wine, because it has such a high ABV, 12, 14 ABV, and you do not taste it that harsh. And having half a bottle of wine is quite common in the population, and that's a lot.
Okay. Here I have one question from me. RM Honing. You went to Japan last, Benedict, but didn't see any videos. How long does it take for you between filming and broadcasting? I did film, I think it was it 2016?
15.
No, 15 was US.
Oh.
15 was US, and then Isla, and 16, or was it 17? 16 or 17 was Japan, I think 16. In May 16 I did that, and it usually takes me about 2 or 3 months, so it should have been broadcasted in something like July, August 2016. If you have a look around there.
So the distillery videos take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So having here in this fixed setup, having a tasting video, it will be up next day or the day after. So that's fast. But the cutting and the different stories and everything, that's really.
Have a look for Shishibu. What else? Nika, Yoichi. What else? White Oak. Mars, Shinshu Mars. Akashi is White Oak, and Gaia Flow is Shizuoka.
Enough.
Just look out for them on the channel, and you will find a few.
Some praise. You both speak English very well. Is it your native language? Oh no. You went to school in England.
Yeah, I went to school in Great Britain.
And I worked quite a long time for American companies.
But if you want to learn English very good or very well, then you actually have to consume your daily content of reading, watching in English. Then you will get fluent in English and speak English. Do 2 videos a day. Okay, we're already at 50 minutes, so it's the chat is really talkative today, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're really, I think we had quite some people on there, and the quality of the streaming is good. And it actually says how many people we have. 80 people on the channel.
Oh, Rui Malta again. It would be interesting to speak about collecting whiskey. I'm a collector, and my whiskey friends are always criticizing me. A show for collectors would be amazing. So we should have a video for collectors. I will do that.
There are a few knowledge videos
it's missing.
that you didn't do in English.
Yeah.
We should do more knowledge video in English.
Yeah.
How sweet is Belvini Tun with all those casks from Greg?
Not that sweet, no.
Isn't that the one where you have different staves or something? No. Or very many different casks or something?
Yeah. So if you add more casks, then you typically add more spice, not more sweetness. Sweetness is typically, if you have fresh sherry casks, then you get fruitiness, and peaks, sherries, you get sweetness. Yeah.
I'm visiting Germany next year with my partner. Can we visit your shop?
We do not have a shop.
We do not have a shop. We live in the internet.
We're quite virtual. Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, we don't have. There would be too many Germans hanging around in our shop. Okay, so our good life. Thanks, gentlemen. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. So I would say, is there anything else we wanted to say? Damn it, I forgot the one in the German. Oh no! Okay, oh man. Yeah. I forgot it in the German. But I will do it in the English one. And all the Germans who are still on there, post it to your friends, because there will be a new live stream on the 28th of, what is that? September. 28th of September. And it will be a Macmurra live tasting. That's the one from Sweden where you went to.
The Gravity Distillery.
And it's going to be, again, it's going to be a bit strange because it's going to be like the Canadian last time, because we're going to have the English before the German. Usually we do the German and then the English, but you're going to be doing the German at 1800 at 6 o'clock p.m. with the CEO of Macmurra.
Yeah, and I had Angelo Durazio, the master blender from Macmurra. I met 2 weeks ago with a special friend, and there will be videos online with that meeting as well, I think, in the upcoming weeks. And now with the CEO of Macmurra.
So, and the second one for the Germans who still might be on the channel here will be with me and Horst. So I'm going to pick up all the knowledge that I'm going to see during the live tasting, and hopefully we can both repeat them again that he's going to tell us, and that's going to be at 8 p.m. So it's going to be a German one at 8 p.m. and at 6 p.m. Central European time. Is that summer or winter time? Just click on the video.
This is still summertime.
Still summertime.
Yeah, we switch over 1st of October.
Yeah, just
last
and
weekend.
Sure, will be at if you are subscribed, you will see the new event, and if you're not subscribed, then go to Whisky.com/live and you will find the live event there. And if you click on the play button of the next live event, you will see a little countdown time, and it will show you the time of your time zone, because I can't calculate all the time zones for you.
To Macmurra and the CEO, if we would have taken that video 50 years ago, it was definitely that way that he would speak German. So in former times, first foreign language in Sweden was German. And then in the 60s, I think they changed it over to English, and they switched their driving on the left side to the right side in some day. So they went more international, and now that fixed to Germany. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe he does speak German, so I can skip the second one.
Yeah.
But I will try it behind the camera then. Okay, so anything else?
Nope.
So thank you very much. Have a look at Whisky.com/live if you're not already on it for the next live tasting. So it will be about 1 month. Thank you very much for watching, and let's see if I got the outro.